All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. The copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
To hold from this day forward,
to have and to hold from this day forth,
for better, for worse,
for better, for worse,
for richer, for poorer,
for richer, for poor,
in sickness and in health,
in sickness and in health,
to love,
to love,
cherish,
cherish,
and obey. To love, cherish,
cherish.
and obey.
I'm not saying that word.
Say it.
I'm not saying that word. I'm not obeying anybody. I don't obey anybody, especially him. So you can continue without that word. Cherish. I'm not obeying nobody. I'm not saying that word. You think I am about to start my life off obeying a man? Never. I'm not obeying anybody.
Say it, girl.
So we can continue. We can continue without me saying that
small
word.
ceremony at your parents' house. So
I don't care where it is.
We got the officiant.
Vows are vows, and you have to abide by them. And that word obey,
It's not.
I'm definitely not obeying you.
I-
No, I'm not. Ever.
Trying
Don't.
to show off.
I'm not trying to show off, but I'm not obeying.
You trying
I'm
to
not
show-
saying that word obey. I am not.
You're trying to show off in front of your family.
I am not. We either
you
gonna
trying to
continue
show-
or we can
You're getting loud.
we can
You
leave.
want to embarrass me in front of your
We
family?
can leave
You
because
wanna
I'm not
embarrass me in
saying
front
that
of
word
your family? You want to
obey.
show out in front of your family?
You can
just want to
continue,
show out in front of your
Pastor.
family. Do you want to show out in
Go
front of your
ahead
family?
and
I'm not
Say
continue.
it,
I'm
girl.
not saying obey. You can obey. I'm not saying obey. I'm not obeying
Oh, so you-
nobody.
in sickness
in sickness
and in health,
and in health,
to love,
to love,
cherish,
cherish.
and to obey.
We didn't talk about that one in council.
We did talk about that in counseling. Yes, we did. So you want me to repeat that again? You want to just keep going?
I think we can keep going.
All right.
This is the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 11, verse 3, and it reads, But I would have you to know that the head of every man is the Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Hamashiach is Yahweh. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashar Barazar from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Oh boy. All right. Those two clips of those rebellious Judite women. I mean, man, that was tough to watch, and also kind of embarrassing because, like the one pastor said, we went over this, and then they get up there and do that, but they really had a problem with the word obey. All right, and when people don't go into the words, we always go into words, to etymology of them, and it's people go or operate based on what they've been told for the most part, instead of based on what they read, and you have to do that. You have to remember, the English language is not our language, and it is ever evolving. All right, we see that in our lifetime. The definition of man and woman changed right before our eyes. Okay, and then for some of us who are old enough, when you didn't have the internet or these smartphones to look up words, you had to go to an actual dictionary. Okay, and when you looked up words, if that word had a prefix, a root word, and a suffix, you know, each one of those parts of that word had different origins, you know. So it's just meshed a whole bunch of stuff together to come up with a definition. Like for example, you know, I said they change different than man and woman. When you look at that term conspiracy theory, okay, those words individually have, you know, two different meanings. How do you put them together and come up with the shit that they have for it today? All right, it doesn't make sense, but that's just the way of Babylon, you know, which means confusion. All right, but getting back to those two videos, man, that was absolutely ridiculous, you know, especially the first video when a woman got loud with the guy, you know. That was just, man, they both gonna have some problems, because that obedience is very important. Okay, I'm gonna get that in the Edamon online. All right, got that right here. Okay. In the 1300s, okay, it means to carry out the commands of someone, submit to a command or rule, be ruled by. All right. And, you know, based on that 1 Corinthians 11:3, you know, the Lord, Yahushua, rules over us, the men. All right. And then the man, in his capacity, rules over the woman. Scriptures tell us that. Even Sarah called Abraham Lord. Okay? And, you know, these women got it in their head that it's just, you're going to do everything that I say. No, it's just like the Lord works with us in righteousness. You know, that man is supposed to work in righteousness with her. All right? That's just the way it's supposed to go. All right? Getting back to the definition, it says, be ruled by, obey, be obedient, do one's duty. Okay? Our duty as a man is what? All right? Let me go grab that and come back. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 13. And it reads, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. All right? That is our duty, is to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, you know, which we didn't do as a people. That's why we're in a predicament that we're in now. All right? And that woman is supposed to follow suit. All right? Because the man is the image of the Lord. Okay? Not the woman. It is the man that is the image of the Lord. Let me grab that too. But see, right here, this is the whole duty. That is our duty, to be obedient. And under the man, that woman is supposed to follow suit. Okay? She's supposed to be obedient to her husband. All right? The scriptures say, if a woman learn anything, she learns from her husband who is at home. All right? We know in the garden, Eve learned from Adam. We know that, because when the Lord gave the command not to eat of the tree of knowledge and good and evil, she wasn't around at the time. She hadn't been presented to Adam. Okay? Yet, when the serpent approached her, she told the serpent what was told to Adam. If Adam didn't tell her, who did? All right? So she was disobedient to her husband, as we, the church, were disobedient. You know, us being the bride, the elect man, being the bride of Christ, we were disobedient to him. All right? And look where it got us. both literally and with the Lord. You know, we got those curses, which we're dealing with right now. Okay? We are the image of the Most High, not the woman. All right? And he didn't give her that wisdom. Let me go to that 1 Corinthians 11. Verse 7. It says, "For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, for as much as he is the image and glory of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. But the woman is the glory of the man." All right? And we know that when you go and read that about the virtuous woman in Proverbs 31, you know, verses 10 through 31. You know, that when that man instructs that woman like he's supposed to, like it says in Proverbs 31, her husband is known in the gates. All right? That's because her mind was well instructed. All right? I'll get that scripture here, but let's go back to that word, obey. And so, like, if we're jumping all over the place, but we got to make these points, all right? So you understand. I'll start back from the top. Obey is a verb. 1300, obeying, carry out the commands of someone, submit to a command, rule, etc. Be ruled by, you know, old French obéir, obey, to be obedient, do one's duty, okay? I just covered about that duty. 12th century, from Latin, obedir, obedir, oboedir, obey, be subject, serve, pay attention, give ear, literally listen to. From ob to cob plus audir, listen, hear. From pi, root aw, to perceive. Same sense development is here Sumerian, the Old English word for the same thing, related, obeyed, obey. But here's the thing when it says you got to pay attention, give ear to, it said literally listen to. So what that woman said, and if she literally hit it on the head, you know, I'm not going to obey him, which means I'm not going to listen to him. All right? And when we do that, we're in trouble. Okay? We didn't listen to the Lord. What did he say? This is Proverbs. Scriptures say Proverbs 28:9. And it reads, "He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination." Yeah, that means that your prayer is wicked when you've turned your ear away from hearing the law. Okay? And one of those laws is, you know, women, you know, you got to be obedient to your husbands, subject to them. All right? And in that case of those two videos, man, yeah, that's going to be a headache for a long time. I don't know when those videos were made, but, you know, they were very good examples, you know, of, you know, we're getting a manifestation of, you know, the men being disobedient to Yahushua. Okay, we're joined unto him, married to him, you know, in that sense. Okay, and being married to you know, our wives. Okay, and then you got to remember too, our marriage is not the same as the marriage of the United States. You know, well, actually, it was a colony of Massachusetts in 1639. The first marriage license, okay, was issued here. Now, but you got to remember, we weren't allowed to be married until the 14th Amendment. I think that was ratified in 1868. Yeah, the 14th Amendment, just a few years after the Emancipation, well, not the Emancipation Proclamation, a few years after the slaves were freed. Okay, Emancipation Proclamation was actually gone through Congress in 1863. So, you know, our marriages weren't recognized until that time, 1868. Okay, but the whole point is, you know, as a man supposed to be listening to the Lord, you know, the women should be listening to their husbands, who is their Lord. Now, mind you, you know, this is, you know, that man operate in righteousness, but we don't have that right now. Okay, it was one of the curses in Deuteronomy 28, said the woman shall have an evil eye towards her husband. Yeah. You know, Jeremiah, the Lord said he created a new thing, and that a woman shall compass a man. So yeah, the same thing, you know, we made the Lord jealous, you know, by entertaining other gods, idolatry and stuff like that. Hey, we getting the same thing from our women. Because if they're not, you know, being obedient to us, who are they being obedient to? All right? And as I keep saying that word, you have to be in the mindset it means to listen to pay attention, give ear to. Because if you don't, you're in a lot of fucking trouble. You know? And possibly get that man. Well, not possibly. Look what happened to Adam. You know, which is where we are today. The physical woman's disobedience to her husband can wreak havoc on the whole family for years to come, which is what happened. Okay, that is your husband. You know, he is responsible for you. All right. You gotta pay attention. You gotta give ear. You gotta listen. You know. And like that first definition said, you know, it said to execute a command. Okay? How can you execute a command if you're not listening? If you're not paying attention? You know? And I know this is stuff that they make up, but let's say, you know, they say when a man and woman are walking down the street, you know, the man's supposed to walk on the curbside. You know? He tell you, come on, baby, switch over sides, you know. I can get out of the way faster than you can. She like, nah, I like this side of the road. Car jumped the curb, her ass get hit, that's it. You didn't listen. You didn't pay attention. You didn't give ear to. Okay? That role of a husband is a huge role. You know? He's responsible for you. All right? This is Sirach. Actually, let me go to Ephesians 5 just to back that point up. Ephesians 5. And start at verse 21. It says, wives, submit unto your husbands as unto the Lord. Okay? See, as the husband is the Lord to the woman, you know, the husband, the Lord is, we have to submit ourselves unto the Lord. Okay? That's why that order is the way it was in 1 Corinthians 11:3. Yahweh Shai, the man, and then the woman. That's the order. Scriptures tell us, and let everything be done decently in order. All right, and if you're not obeying that man, that's a lot of chaos. A lot of chaos in that home, you know, and doing what you want. No, you can't just do what you want to do. All right. For one, you know, as Yahweh gave Yahweh Shai the wisdom. You know, you get that in Proverbs chapter 8, verses 22 through 30. You know, Yahweh Shai gave it to us. He didn't give it to the women. All right. That's why you have to listen. Because he didn't give you that wisdom. Let me show you that. This is Job 39:17. And it reads, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. He did not give that to you. All right, we go into that all the time. When the Lord breathed the breath of life into Adam's nostrils, that's when he received the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. He never breathed into the woman's nostrils. Okay? Never breathed into her nostrils. You get that in Wisdom of Solomon 7. All right? That wisdom was only given to the men. Proverbs chapter 8. Verses 1 through 4. And it reads, doth not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of the high places, by the way in the place of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. It says, unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. All right? So he's very specific. The sons of man is the elect men of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right? Unto you, O men. Okay? He gives that wisdom to the men. All right? And the woman, in turn, learns from him. All right? So, you have to be obedient and submit to your husband, especially if he's a man of the Lord. And you're going to know that he's going to be operating at a whole different level of wisdom. The things he used to do, he don't do anymore. Put off the old man and put on the new. And when you women don't listen, you're going to end up like Job's wife. A pillar of salt. Straight up. This is Sirach with Ecclesiasticus, chapter 36, start of verse 24. It says, he that getteth a wife beginneth a possession, a help like unto himself, and a pillar of rest. And yeah, y'all got a problem with that too. Yeah. Property. Once that man sees goes into you, the science is showing you every day. His cells, his seed is all over your body. And the only way that's going to go away, is if he passes away, if he dies. Okay. Yes, you are his possession. You take his surname. He don't take yours. Well, then again, you got some of these simps today who will hyphenate their name like their wife. That's the dumbest shit ever. You gonna take your wife's maiden name. So you saying you're the seed of her father as well too. That's the dumbest shit ever. Jake is stupid for hyphenating his name. So now her father's seed and your father's seed split and they made you. That's the dumbest shit ever. All right? Just stupid. It says, verse 25, where no hedge is, there the possession is spoiled. Okay? When we talk about that hedge of protection, you said the possession, which is a wife, plundered and spoiled. Okay? It says, and he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning. All right, we get a clear example of that. Okay, in 1 Samuel 30, when the Amalekites came in and kidnapped the women. Let me grab that account. This is 1 Samuel chapter 30, verses 1 through 5. Verse 1, and it reads, "And it came to pass, when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites," that's your small hats, big nose, big eared people occupying the land today, the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned them with fire, and had taken the women captives that were therein. They slew not any, either great or small, but carried them away and went on their way. Verse 3, "So David and his men came to the city, and behold, it was burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters were taken captives." Verse 4, "Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep." Verse 5, "And David's two wives were taken captives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the wife of Nabal the Carmelite." All right, going back to that Sirach 36. And 25. Okay. Where no hedge is, that was David's and men, the protection. Okay. They're the possession of spoil. They're their possession. Who's that? The wives. Just read that in verse 24. Okay. "And he that hath no wife will wander up and down mourning." Exactly what I just read. So basically, in those two videos, when you women do not obey, and that means, again, when you go to the breakdown of it, it says, obey, be subject, give ear, okay? Literally, to listen to. All right? And you cannot execute any command if you don't hear it. Okay? You can't execute any command if you don't listen. There's a difference between the two. You can hear somebody say something, but were you listening? And for them blatantly to say that they're not going to obey, that's going to bring on chaos, And that look, it happened to us. Let me get this, Deuteronomy. I'm going to go to the blue letter so I can get both sides of it. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28. Verse 15. The consequences of disobedience, not obeying. Curses in an NLT for disobedience. So something bad is going to happen when you don't obey. And both of them said that. All right. Verse 15 in the KJV. "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and take over thee." All right? If you don't hearken. Let's get it in the NLT. Verse 15. It says, "But if you refuse to listen to Yahweh thy power and do not obey all the commands and decrees that I'm giving you today, all these curses will come and overwhelm you. And yes, the hell they did. Yes, the hell they did. And we sighing and crying to get up out of this bitch, because, yeah, shit is, I mean, everything is messed up. Can't even eat right, can't breathe right, can't drink water the right way, because Esau fucking it all up. And you know, the so-called black woman is his pit bull. She's finding out slowly when he took all her jobs away. And now, you know, they marrying them and taking them out, you know. But yeah, that you know, and that's why, you know, it says in what's this? Isaiah 4:1. It says, and in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name, to take away our reproach. Only a man can give you that hedge of protection. You get that in Isaiah 32, okay, verses 2 and 3. There's a reason why he put us in that, you know, in that position. All right. And this man that speaks of here, that one man, that's an elect man, a righteous man. Ain't just any man. Because the Lord is going to deal with that too. All right. Sirach to 26 and 23 says, a wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man. Okay. But a godly woman is given to him that fears the Lord. Okay. Roughly paraphrasing. But you disobedient women out here, you know, you're not going to have no protection. You're not going to have any. Which, you know, plays into Ezekiel chapter 9, verses 4 through 6. A lot of y'all going to get fucked up with that judgment. All right. The righteous men are going to have the Atawah, which is the mark of exemption. Okay. That's the mark we're going to have. He said, everybody else go through the city and smite. That means kill. And you all are named like three times in that passage of scriptures. Ezekiel chapter 9, verses 4 through 6. A lot of you women going to get fucked up for being disobedient. All right. And right here in this Isaiah 4:1, yeah, it's going to be that righteous man. All right. And it's going to be very few of them. That's why a lot of y'all are going to get taken out for being disobedient. All right. This is Proverbs 11:4. It says, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivered from death. Okay. That Isaiah 4:1 said we will have our own bread, get our own apparel. Yeah. And that day, it ain't about 50-50 is going to go the fuck out the window. Yeah, I pay for my own stuff. I pay for my own food. I pay for yours too. You know, only cover me. You know, I don't want to get destroyed. That's what's going to happen. But see, it says, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivered from death. Who's the righteous? It's Ecclesiastes chapter 7. That survey that Solomon did. Mm-hmm. It says, beginning at verse 27. And it reads, behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one to find out the account. Yet my soul seeketh, but I find not one. Slakia. Read that again. Verse 28. Which yet my soul seeketh, but I find not. One man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those have I not found. All right. So for every 1,000 men, the Lord's going to find one righteous. Okay. And he says that in verse 29. Lo, this only have I found, that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. Some of us lean to our own understanding. Okay, even the elect, before they came into the understanding, now you're straightening up and flying right. Doing the right thing, come back to the law, statutes, and commandments, rehearsing the righteous acts. In the places of drawing water, and places of drawing waters wherever we're in servitude. Okay. But man is made upright. So you go back to that, that one man in Isaiah 4:1. Yeah, that's the one where the women gonna come knocking on the door, beating stuff down. But those two videos, man, that's really, especially in the time that we're in right now. Especially at the time the Lord gonna you women like that. If those two men should, repent, come back to the law, statutes, and commandments, the Lord's going to remove you from them. All right? And you going to have a missile with your name on it, or a spirit of vengeance. He's going to remove you from him. Yep. That's Sirach with Ecclesiasticus. Chapter 26, verse 23. And it reads, a wicked woman, as those two women in the video, is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth the Lord. All right? And you'll make room for the type of woman that's mentioned in the same chapter. This is Sirach, chapter 26, verse 3. And it reads, a good wife is a good portion, which shall be given in the portion of them that fear the Lord. That's the elect. That's that righteous man I was talking about, reading about in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. All right, that same righteous man in Isaiah 4:1. That same righteous man in Proverbs 11:4. All right. So you women that don't want to be obedient, your ass gonna get moved out of the way, especially if those men repent. All right. Here's another one. Same chapter. Okay. And this is the point right here. And maybe you women in those videos, once you start to see stuff go down, you probably straighten up and fly right. This is Sirach chapter 26, verse 14. It says, a silent and loving woman is a gift of the Lord, and there is nothing so much worth as a mind well instructed. Okay? How are you instructed? By being obedient, which goes through the cycle of paying attention, giving ear to, listening, and executing commands to those that have rule over you. And again, that man has to be right, okay, when he's ruling over you. What was that? 1 Peter, is it 3 and 7? Yeah. 1 Peter 3 and 7. That husband, that man has to be right. It says, likewise ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers Be not hindered. Okay? We know that the woman is a good wife, or a prudent woman is a gift from the Lord. Okay? Somebody give you a gift and don't mess it over. All right? Don't mess it over. But them two women, man, God damn, they were a piece of work. I think that's Proverbs 19:14. God. It says, house and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. A wise woman is from the Lord. Okay? So, hey, that obedience is huge. You know, it was huge when we got the commands at Mount Sinai, you know, as they've been taught throughout history, to even to this day, you know, under the, you know, apostles, and the elders, the elder bishops, GMS. You know, we got to carry that stuff out, so you know the things are going to be right. And you women, you know, you're gonna fall in line. By the time you realize, if you don't fall in line, by the time you realize it, it's gonna be too late. You know, you just have to come back, you know, as well, as a nutsack Israelite, you know. Yeah. All right, so with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Raha Akakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth that be like unto the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners, and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharallah, Abba Babal. We got next. Shalom.